All right. Let's see. Well, put my camera down a little bit. Too much. All right. Happy Sabbath. Hope everybody's doing good. I'm Lee. Going to continue reading in Enoch. We ended on chapter 89 last time. So we'll be starting in chapter 90. Always test what I say. Don't just take my word for it. Go study the scriptures, pray about it, read it, and make sure the understanding is correct. If I get anything wrong, it's my fault. If I get anything right, all praise to Father Yahuwah. Without him, we don't get anything right. It's through his spirit, through his strength, that we can do things. All praise to the Father through the Son, Yahusha. So, chapter 90. And I saw till that in this manner 35 shepherds undertook the pasturing of the sheep, and they severally completed their periods, as did the first, and others received them into their hands to pasture them for their period, each shepherd in his own period. And after that I saw in my vision all the birds of heaven coming, the eagles, the vultures, the kites, the ravens. But the eagles led all the birds, and they began to devour their sheep, to pick out their eyes, and to devour their flesh. The sheep is Israel. All the search functions that we have where we can search scriptures, we don't have to unroll scrolls, miles of scrolls, or search through tons of books. We can just search it up and go right to it. Is a excellent tool in the end days here. So it can be used for good, and it can be used for evil. But praise Yah, it's a good tool. Matthew 15:24, but he answered and said, I am not sent, but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. The 12 tribes. That's not the Gentiles, that's Israelites. And the eagles, the birds, roam. You notice how on their flags and everything they have birds, eagles. Vultures, kites, ravens, eagles. But the eagles led all the birds, that's Rome, the Kittim. And 2nd Esdras gives more detail to the prophecy of Daniel, the fourth beast, which is Rome, eagle. You see the statue they put in front of the UN in 2021 with the eagle's wings on it. The other side, it's crazy, the other side knows more about what's going on than believers sometimes. And the sheep cried out because their flesh was being devoured by the birds. And as for me, I looked and lamented in my sleep over that shepherd who pastured the sheep. And I saw until those sheep were devoured by the dogs and eagles and kites. And they left neither flesh nor skin nor sinew remaining on them, till only their bones stood there. And their bones too fell to the earth, and the sheep became few. This is interesting here. See, no flesh or skin, their bones fell to the earth. Ezekiel 37. Yeah. Ezekiel 37, Yahuwah's hand was on me, and he brought me out in Yahuwah's spirit, set me down in the middle of the valley, and it was full of bones. He caused me to pass by them all around, and behold, there were very many in the open valley, and behold, they were very dry. He said to me, Son of man, can these bones live? I answered, Lord Yahuwah, you know. Again, he said to me, prophesy over these bones and tell them, you dry bones, hear Yahuwah's word. Thus says Lord Yahuwah to these bones, behold, I will cause my breath to enter into you, and you will live. I will lay sinews on you, and will bring flesh on you, and cover you with skin, and put breath in you, and you will live. Then you will know that I am Yahuwah. So I prophesied as I was commanded. As I prophesied, there was a noise, and behold, there was an earthquake. The bones came together, bone to its bone. I saw, and behold, there were sinews on them, and flesh came up, and skin covered them above, but there was no breath in them. Then he said to me, prophesy to the wind, prophesy, son of man, and tell the wind, thus says Lord Yahuwah, come from the four winds, breathe, and breathe on these slain, that they may live. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath came into them, and they lived and stood up on their feet, an exceedingly great army. Then he said to me, Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. Behold, they say, our bones are dried up, and our hope is lost. We are completely cut off. Therefore prophesy and tell them, thus says the Lord Yahuwah, behold, I will open your graves and cause you to come up out of your graves, my people, and I will bring you into the land of Israel. You will know that I am Yahuwah when I have opened your graves and caused you to come up out of your graves, my people. So that's very interesting. We see here that they're devoured. Zoom that in a little bit. And it's like I don't know, every time I start streaming. So it's like the opposite of, this is when they're scattered into the Gentiles. And this the opposite of the Ezekiel prophecy. And then you see in Ezekiel, when he returns and he raises them out of their graves, it reverses it. So cursed, not cursed. Happy Sabbath, Rosie. And you see that all through Enoch. It backs up Scripture. And it gives deeper understanding. There's a reason why the New Testament quotes it, references it tons of times. It's not because the New Testament was written and then Enoch was written. It's because Enoch was written and the New Testament writers read Enoch and used Enoch. So we got Rome, and then we've got the Ezekiel, opposite of the Ezekiel prophecy. We know who the sheep are. We know who the eagles are. Vultures, kites, and ravens. I think I shared this before, but this is a good resource. And it's a resource. It's not a replacement for reading the word for yourself and having the Father reveal stuff to you. But it's good to have an outside perspective from people. You can see what they said, and then you can go test it and see if it's correct or not. So if you go to LeviteBible.com, and just know they use the R.H. Charles translation. They don't use any of the Dead Sea Scrolls to correct the text or any of that stuff. But it's still useful. But if you go to, this is the God Culture, Levite Bible. Timothy Schwab, Anna Zamaramas. Quotation. I can't read it. It's copyrighted now that they've used it. So I'm just going to show you what they did here. And then if you want to go look, check out the book for yourself, go for it. I do have it. I do recommend it. Let's see here. So you got, so you got the shepherd thing they got here. They've got a note. Where's it at? Nope, wrong one. The note on the 70 shepherds, they don't believe that the shepherds are angels, which it is. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure on it. Zoom back in here. Yeah. So they got shepherds change in number, right? But it could also be because the Israelites move from nation to nation. So if it is angels and it's separated according to the nations, then if they change nations, they change shepherds. So, I mean, it could be. If you look at so they got here ravens as Pharisees. That's an interesting note. Samaritan priest who usurped the temple. The ravens are in the lead. Then you got Edomites in play, Hasmoneans, Herod, an Edomite. So there's more going on than meets the eye. You should study Enoch like you study the rest of Scripture. So, all right, so I'm not going to read that anymore. But yeah, you can read firstenoch.org, levitebible.com. Which, yeah, that makes sense. Romans, Pharisees, Sadducees, all the people that were coming against Messiah, they were in Jerusalem. Most correct version of Enoch. There's not really, I don't think there's a most correct version, but you can get a better version. Let me look. All right, so this one's a good one. They use, all the translators do is they look through all the Greek manuscripts, Latin manuscripts, Aramaic manuscripts we have in the Dead Sea Scrolls, which are the most accurate, and they make a translation based on that. So if you don't have all those manuscripts, you have to rely on a translator. Here's a pretty good one. The footnotes will tell you what some of the different manuscripts say. So you can compare and check for yourself because the translators don't always get it right. So that's the Hermenia translation. They do have a Hermenia commentary that you can look at that tells you what the different manuscripts say. More detail. Giza Vermes gives you the Qumran, Bethabara Qumran text, the Hebrew for Enoch, so you can look through those. That's the most accurate, but we don't have, the only full copy of Enoch we have is Ethiopian. Other than that, it's all fragmentary. Charles Worth Pseudepigrapha, he gives different manuscripts too, and he uses the Dead Sea Scrolls. Again, he doesn't put some of the stuff he puts in the translations I don't agree with. I look at the footnotes and I say, this should have been in the translation. But he didn't put it in there. So not always, it's like a translator's they're not always believers or obedient or have the Holy Spirit. So they're just translators, right? They're just scholars. That's the difference. So if you're in Messiah, you're obedient, you have the Spirit, and then you can go back and you can go and look at what they did, then the Father can show you what's right and what's wrong, right? So, that's okay. No problem. That may help somebody else too. So, but yeah, there's a lot of different translations out there, but most people don't realize that the English, the Greek was translated out of Hebrew, the Ethiopian was translated out of the Greek, and the English is translated out of, maybe the Ethiopian, maybe the Greek, maybe the Aramaic. And then you can't see what's under the hood. So, and I saw until that 23 had undertaken pasturing and had completed it in their several periods 58 times. But behold, lambs were born by those white sheep, and they began to open their eyes and to see, and to cry to the sheep. Yea, they cried to them, that's Israelites, but they did not hearken to what they said to them, but were exceedingly deaf, and their eyes were very exceedingly blinded. And I saw in the vision how the ravens flew upon those lambs, and took one of those lambs, and dashed the sheep in pieces, and devoured them. And I saw till horns grew upon those lambs, and the ravens cast down their horns. And I saw till there sprouted a great horn on one of those sheep, and their eyes were opened. I think the great horn is Messiah. And it looked at them, and their eyes opened, and it cried to the sheep, and the rams saw it, and all ran to it. And notwithstanding all this, those eagles and vultures and ravens and kites still kept tearing the sheep and swooping down upon them and devouring them. Still the sheep remained silent, but the rams lamented and cried out. And those ravens fought and battled with it and sought to lay low its horn, but they had no power over it. And I saw till the shepherds and eagles and those vultures and kites came, and they cried to the ravens that they should break the horn of that ram, and they battled and fought with it, and it battled with them and cried that its help might come. See, it tells you right here, even in Charles' version, see, he's got two different manuscripts he's working with here. And he's giving you, I can't remember which one's which, but in my books in there, in my R.H. Charles, I can see in the footnotes where he's referencing different manuscripts. So even in 1912, he was using different manuscripts. He just didn't have all that we have now. And I saw till a great sword was given to the sheep, and the sheep proceeded against all the beasts of the field to slay them. That's the peoples, the Gentiles, beasts of the field. And all the beasts and the birds of the heaven fled before their face. So the great sword given to the sheep, that is when the Messiah returns. Great swords given to the saints execute judgment. And we'll see that later on in Enoch's dream vision. It's not animals. He tells you the same thing. So it gives you more understanding of what's going on here, if you can't understand with the animal dream vision. But yeah, this sounds here like a lot like the apostles and the Messiah, right? So here, and I saw to that man who wrote down the names of the shepherds and carried it up into the presence of Yahuwah of the sheep, came and helped it and showed it everything. He had come down for the help of that ram. And I saw till Yahuwah of the sheep came unto them in wrath, and all who saw him fled, and they all fell into his shadow from before his face. I saw Messiah. So over here, and I saw that man who wrote the book according to the command of Yahuwah, till he opened that book concerning the destruction which those 12 last shepherds had wrought, and showed that they had destroyed much more than their predecessors before Yahuwah of the sheep. And I saw till Yahuwah of the sheep came unto them, and took in his hand the staff of his wrath, and smote the earth, and the earth clave asunder, and all the beasts and all the birds of the heaven fell from among those sheep, and were swallowed up in the earth, and it covered them. Hallelujah. Stone hit the statue. Daniel. Where's it at? Break it in pieces. Let's see. I think in chapter 7. Let's see. Daniel 2. Daniel 2. Yeah, here we go. Thou sawest till that stone was cut without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like chaff of the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them, and the stone that smote the image became a great mountain, and filled the whole earth. Same thing. It's all over scriptures. Oh. And I saw till a throne was erected in the pleasant land, and Yahuwah the sheep sat himself thereon. And the other took the sealed books and opened those books before Yahuwah the sheep. I'll find it that way. There we go. All right, so Daniel 7. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like a fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. And you'll see that in the Dead Sea Scrolls too, in some other scriptures that we don't have. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were opened. I beheld them because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake. I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame. And as concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and time. I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came near with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. And there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. Revelation. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. See, books were open, right? Sealed books. Open those books. And Yahuwah called those men the 7 first white ones, and commanded that they should bring before him. What other 7 do we have besides the archangels? Gabriel, Raphael, Michael, Sariel. Beginning with the first star which led the way, all the stars whose privy members were like those of horses, and they brought them all before him. And he said to that man who wrote before him, being one of those 7 white ones, and said unto him, take those 70 shepherds to whom I delivered the sheep, and who taking them on their own authority slew more than I commanded them. Now see, this is the judgment. And if it's just normal people, like the Levite, the God culture says, it's just normal people that are over them, then they would not be. Would they be there? That sounds like 70 angels. And behold, they were all bound, and I saw, and they all stood before him. And the judgment was held first over the stars, and they were judged. Well, who's the stars? The angels. And found guilty, and went to the place of condemnation, and they were cast into an abyss full of fire and flaming, and full of pillars of fire. And those 70 shepherds were judged and found guilty, and they were cast into that fiery abyss. And I saw at that time how a like abyss was opened in the midst of the earth, full of fire, and they brought those blinded sheep, and they were all judged and found guilty, and cast into this fiery abyss, and they burned. Now this abyss was to the right of that house. I saw those sheep burning, and their bones burning. See, it's not just automatically burned up, gone. They're burning, and they're tormented, and they're suffering. And I stood up to see till they folded up that old house, and carried off all its pillars, and all the beams and ornaments of the house were at the same time folded up with it. And they carried it off, and laid it in a place in the south of the land. And I saw till Yahuwah the sheep brought a new house greater and loftier than that first, and set it up in the place of the first, which had been folded up. It's not beer. Bin. Typos. All its pillars were new, and its ornaments were new, and larger than those of the first. The old one which he had taken away, and all the sheep were within it. Right. So there will be a temple with temple service. He's going to have his city, New Jerusalem, and he's going to have his temple. Some say that we're not going to have a temple. It's very clear. Ezekiel 40 to 48, the temple scroll, the Dead Sea Scrolls, there will be a temple in New Jerusalem. And I saw all the sheep which had been left, and all the beasts of the earth, and all the birds of the heaven, falling down and doing homage to those sheep, and making petition to and obeying them in everything. He said, you'll rule over the nations. You'll rule with Christ 1,000 years, right? If we're considered worthy, they're going to bow down, and they're going to do what they're told. Revelation 26, blessed and holy is he that hath part in the first resurrection. On such the second death hath no power, but they shall be priests of Elohim and of Messiah. Priest. And shall reign. What do kings do? Reign with him 1,000 years. Well, the priest is higher than the king, right? And thereafter, those three who were clothed in white and had seized me by my hand, who had taken me up before, and the hand of that ram also seizing hold of me, they took me up and set me down in the midst of those sheep before the judgment took place. Took me up down. This right here sounds like Enoch, because Enoch's the one writing. And those sheep were all white, and their wool was abundant and clean. Revelation 7:14, I said unto him, Sir, thou knowest. And he said to me, These are they which came out of great tribulation, and have washed their robes, clean robes, and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. And therefore are they before the throne of Elohim, and serve him day and night in what? His temple. And he that sitteth on the throne shall dwell among them. And all that had been destroyed and dispersed, and all the beasts of the field, and all the birds of the heaven assembled in that house. And Yahuwah of the sheep rejoiced with great joy, because they were all good, and had returned to his house. And I saw till they laid down that sword which had been given to the sheep, and they brought it back into the house, and it was sealed before the presence of Yahuwah, and all the sheep were invited into that house, but it held them not. And the house, in my Father's house are many mansions. John 14:2, in my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you, I go to prepare a place for you. House. House. Sometimes in the translations, they'll have different words translated differently, so it's hard to piece it together. If you had the original language, you would know exactly which phrases match, which passages go together. So we're kind of trying to piece it in the English language, which we can in some places. Some places it's harder to do that. And the eyes of them all were open, and they saw the good, and there was not one among them that did not see. And I saw that house was large and broad and very full. And I saw that a white bull was born with large horns, and all the beasts of the field and all the birds of the air feared him and made petition to him all the time. Now that is interesting. I can't remember the passage, but it's like there's somebody, I don't know. I'm not going to go into that. This is somebody in the scriptures. It's like Messiah raises up some king to reign. I know he's King Messiah, but it's like he raises up somebody to reign with him, kind of like Pharaoh did Joseph, something like that. I don't know. That's what I'm seeing, anyways. And I saw till all their generations were transformed, and they all became white bulls, and the first among them became a lamb, and that lamb became a great animal, and had great black horns on its head. And Yahuwah the sheep rejoiced over it, and over all the oxen. The reason I say that too, you can see here, like Lord of the sheep we saw earlier in the dream vision, Lord of the sheep is the Messiah, Yahusha, right? We'll see right here, this is a different person. See, he rejoiced over it and all the oxen. There's somebody else. And I can't put my finger on what it is. And I slept in their midst, and I awoke and saw everything. That may be the servant Ezekiel too. There's somebody else. And I slept in their midst, and I awoke and saw everything. This is the vision which I saw when I slept, and I awoke and blessed Yahuwah of righteousness, and gave him glory. Then I wept with a great weeping, and my tears stayed not till I could no longer endure it. When I saw they flowed on account of what I had seen, for everything shall come and be fulfilled, and all the deeds of men in their order were shown to me. On that night I remembered the first dream, and because of it I wept and was troubled, because I had seen that vision. Enoch sees a vision, and for the naysayers that don't like Enoch, Genesis 15, after these things the word of Yahuwah came unto Abraham in a vision, saying, Fear not, Abram, I am thy shield and thy exceeding great reward. Numbers 12, and he said, Hear now my words, if there be a prophet among you, I, Yahuwah, will make myself known unto him in a vision, and will speak unto him in a dream. Ezekiel, afterward the Spirit took me up and brought me in a vision by the Spirit of Elohim into Chaldea to them of the captivity. So the vision that I had seen went up from me. That's interesting. Ezekiel 11. Ezekiel goes to those in the dispersion, the captivity. Daniel 8:2, and I saw in a vision it came to pass when I saw that I was at Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam, and I saw in a vision I was by the river of Ulah. Even in the New Testament. Chapter 92, now this is where it gets kind of wonky. See, it jumped from 90 to 92, and then back to 91. And then depending on how they translate and how they organize things, break the chapters, all that stuff. If you had to scroll the original scroll, you would see it run perfectly. And, we don't have that. So we just got to do the best we can do with what we got. Happy Sabbath. Honeymoon Stitch. Chapter 92, the book written by Enoch. Enoch indeed wrote this complete doctrine of wisdom, which is praised of all men and a judge of all the earth, for all my children who shall dwell on the earth, and for future generations who shall observe uprightness and peace. And this is, if it'll load. Yep, Giza Vernon's Dead Sea Scrolls. There is not sure if it's in here or not. Might be in another one. Yep, there's a lot of Enoch in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Yep, Genesis Apocryphon has Noah or Abraham writing in the first person, so the words of Abraham. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not going to find it in there. But they talk about Enoch's words of wisdom. Abraham shared it with Pharaoh's servants. It was passed to Levi. It says Levi inherited it. Noah had Enoch's writings, and so on and so on. Let not your spirit be troubled on account of the times, for the Holy and Great One has appointed days for all things, and the righteous one shall arise from sleep. Now, who's he talking to? At the beginning, he says he's talking about for the generation to come that'll be living in the day of tribulation. At the end, so here's who he's talking to. Let not your spirit be troubled on account of the times. And the righteous one shall arise from sleep, shall arise and walk in the paths of righteousness, and all his path and conversation shall be in eternal goodness and grace. This here, normally the righteous one you would think was Messiah, but he's not sleeping, right? He's already raised. Who's the righteous one? Is it just people in general at the end days? And all his path and conversation shall be in eternal goodness and grace. He will be gracious to the righteous and give him eternal uprightness. Well, that's Messiah. Messiah will give eternal uprightness. And he will give him power so that he shall be endowed with goodness and righteousness. And he shall walk in eternal light. The law is light. Parable of the wise and foolish virgins. The interpretations in the Old Testament, what they call Old Testament. Proverbs 6:23, for the commandment is a lamp, and the law is light. And reproofs of instructions are the way of life. Lamp, light, the way of life. Break it down. And sin shall perish in darkness forever, and shall no more be seen from that day forevermore. Praise Yah. Chapter 91, and now my son Methuselah, call to me all thy brothers, and gather together to me all the sons of thy mother, for the word calls me. The word calls me? Yeah, let's see. John, where's that at? John 1:1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim. So the Son, he's the Son of God, that makes him God too. The same was in the beginning with Elohim. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. So he's co-creator also. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. We just saw the light. For the word calls me, and the Spirit is poured out upon me, that I may show you everything that shall befall you forever. So he had the Holy Spirit also. And thereupon Methuselah went and summoned to him all his brothers, and assembled his relatives. And he spake unto all the children of righteousness, and said, Hear, you sons of Enoch, all the words of your father, and hearken aright to the voice of my mouth. For I exhort you, and say to you, Beloved, love uprightness, and walk therein, and draw not nigh to uprightness with a double heart, and associate not with those of a double heart, but walk in righteousness, my sons, and it shall guide you on good paths, and righteousness shall be your companion. So, double heart. Where do we see that at? Double James. There you go. James 4:8, draw nigh to Elohim, and he will draw nigh to you. Cleanse your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded. So double-minded man is unstable. See, it says double-minded. James 1:8, a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. And if you study it out, a lot of James you'll see is, was it the Wisdom of Solomon? And Sirach. Some of those removed books. And a ton of stuff Paul quotes is in removed books too. I think that's why people mess Paul up. Well, they don't read the Old Testament anyways, a lot of them. But So you see the same doctrine James is talking about, but he says double-minded. Let's see. Go to Blue Letter Bible. James. I use the KJV because it's not copyrighted. But James 1:8 and then the ESV, it says double-minded. But you can go into the Greek. Double-minded. G13:17. Dipsukos. Translated double-minded, divided in interest, wavering, uncertain, doubting. Yep, so double-minded. I think when it says heart in Hebrew, it's actually your mind. So this would be, he translated it heart, but it could be double-minded as well. For I know that violence must increase on the earth, and a great chastisement be executed on the earth, and all unrighteousness come to an end. Yea, it shall be cut off from its roots, and its whole structure be destroyed, and unrighteousness shall again be consummated on the earth. See again. Flood first time, fire second time, and all the deeds of unrighteousness and of violence and transgression shall prevail in a twofold degree. And when sin and unrighteousness and blasphemy and violence and all kinds of deeds increase, and apostasy and transgression and uncleanness increase, a great chastisement shall come from heaven upon all these, and the holy Yahuwah will come forth with wrath and chastisement to execute judgment on earth. And Messiah has the Father's name in him, so that could be Yahusha, but they got Lord in there. It was already replaced in the Ethiopic before Charles got to it. But yeah, great chastisement. We're seeing the end of days with all these things right here coming to pass. So there's going to be a judgment on the earth coming soon to a theater near you. In those days, violence shall be cut off from its roots, and the roots of unrighteousness together with deceit, and they shall be destroyed from under heaven. And all the idols of the heathen shall be abandoned. Jeremiah 10, learn not the ways of the heathen. Jeremiah 23. When did that come to mind? Woe be unto the pastors that destroy and scatter the sheep of my pasture, saith Yahuwah. Therefore thus saith Yahuwah Elohim of Yisrael, against the pastors that feed my people, you have scattered my flock and driven them away, and have not visited them. Behold, I will visit upon you the evil of your doing, saith Yahuwah. And I will gather the remnant of my flock out of all the countries whither I have driven them, and will bring them again to their folds, and they shall be fruitful and increase. And I will set up shepherds over them, which shall feed them, and they shall fear no more, nor be dismayed, nor shall they be lacking, saith Yahuwah. In those days Judah will be saved, and Yisrael shall dwell safely. All the idols of the heathen shall be abandoned, and the temples burned with fire, and they shall remove them from the whole earth. And they, the heathen, shall be cast into the judgment of fire, and shall perish in wrath and in grievous judgment forever. And the righteous shall arise from their sleep, and wisdom shall arise and be given to them. I don't consider myself righteous, but he sure has taught me a lot of stuff. And after that, the roots of unrighteousness shall be cut off, and the sinners shall be destroyed by the sword, shall be cut off from the blasphemers in every place, and those who plan violence and those who commit blasphemy shall perish by the sword. Isaiah 34. Let's go to the Dead Sea Scrolls. Isaiah 34. Come near, you nations, to hear. Listen, you peoples. Let the earth and all it contains hear, the world and everything that comes from it. For Yahuwah is enraged against all the nations and angry with all their armies. He has utterly destroyed them. He has given them over for slaughter. Their slain will also be cast out, and the stench of their dead bodies will come up, and the mountains will melt in their blood, and the deep places will be split, and all the army of the sky will fade away. That's interesting. Army of the sky. The sky will be rolled up like a scroll, and all its armies will fade away, as a leaf fades from off a vine or a fig tree, for my sword will be seen in the sky. So this is in modern Bibles, has drunk its fill. This is in the Dead Sea Scrolls, will be seen. For my sword will be seen in the sky. Behold, it will come down on Edom and on the people of my curse for judgment. Jewish Encyclopedia says the Jewish people are Edomites. I don't know if that's correct or not, but Yahuwah's sword is filled with blood. It is covered with fat, with the blood of lambs and goats, with the fat of the kidneys of rams. For Yahuwah has a sacrifice in Basra and a great slaughter in the land of Edom. You can read Obadiah also. The wild oxen will come down with them, and the young bulls with the mighty bulls, and their land will be drunken with blood, and their dust made greasy with fat. For Yahuwah has a day of vengeance, a year of recompense for the cause of Zion. Its streams will be turned into pitch, its dust into sulfur, and its land will become burning pitch. It won't be quenched night or day. Its smoke will go up forever, and from generation to generation it will lie waste. No one will pass through it forever and ever. But the pelican and the porcupine will possess it. The owl and the raven will dwell in it. He will stretch the line of confusion over it and the plumb line of emptiness. They shall call its nobles to the kingdom, but none shall be there. In its princes shall be nothing. Thorns will come up in its palaces, nettles and thistles in its fortresses, and it will be a habitation of jackals, a court for ostriches. The wild animals of the desert will meet with the wolves, and the wild goat will cry to his fellow. Yes, the night creature shall settle there and shall find herself a place of rest. The arrow snake will make her nest there and lay and hatch and gather under her shade. Yes, the kites will be gathered there, everyone with her mate. Search in the book of Yahuwah and read, not one will be missing her mate, for his mouth has commanded and his spirit has gathered them. He has cast a lot for them. Who do you gather? Is that Israel? He has cast a lot for them, and his hands have divided it to them with a measuring line. They shall possess it forever. From generation to generation they will dwell in it. Measuring line. It's in Revelation. Angels, cords to measure. Oh. 21. Nope. Is it 17? Maybe it is. No, it's not. So. Maybe it's in Revelation 7. No. Well, they went to worship. This is one of the first things that he showed me when I woke up in 2020. I can't even remember where it's at. Yep, Revelation 15. All nations shall come and worship before thee. Here we go. Revelation 14. Sorry about that. Saying with a loud voice, fear Elohim and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made heaven and earth and sea and the fountains of the waters. Where do we see that at? On his seal for the Sabbath, like his seventh day. He's the king of heaven and earth, his seal, his king's seal. It's right on the Sabbath day. It's in Exodus. I think it was in Deuteronomy, but somehow it fell out of it. They had a measuring line somewhere. I can't remember. There's a measuring line in there. All right, so cut off, don't blasphemers commit blasphemy. And speaking against his law is also blasphemy. It's his law. Now I tell you, my sons, and show you the paths of righteousness and the paths of violence. Yea, I'll show them to you again, that you may know what will come to pass. I always tell people that if they don't want to keep the law, fine, but don't speak against it. Just keep your mouth shut. If you don't know what you're talking about, just don't say nothing. And now hearken unto me, my sons, and walk in the paths of righteousness, and walk not in the paths of violence, for all who walk in the paths of unrighteousness shall perish forever. So there's going to be an opportunity for a lot of people to repent. Now, whether they'll take it or not, that's a whole nother thing. Chapter 23, or 93. And after that, Enoch gave and began to recount from the books. And Enoch said, concerning the children of righteousness, and concerning the elect of the world, and concerning the plant of uprightness, I will speak these things. Yea, I, Enoch, will declare them unto you, my sons, the children of righteousness and the elect, according to that which appeared to me in the heavenly vision, and which I have known through the word of the holy watchers, messengers, and have learnt from the heavenly tablets. So Enoch saw the heavenly tablets also. We see that in Jubilees. And Enoch began to recount from the books and said, I was born in the 7th in the 1st week, while judgment and righteousness still endured. Wouldn't that be an interesting time to live in? And after me there shall arise in the 2nd week great wickedness, kind of like now, and deceit shall have sprung up, and in it there shall be the first end, the flood, and in it a man shall be saved, Noah, and after it is ended unrighteousness shall grow up, and a law shall be made for the sinners. A law made for the sinners, right? What did Paul say? A lot of churchgoers will say, knowing this, the law is not made for a righteous man. See, we don't have to keep the law. But, keep reading. But for the lawless and disobedient, for the ungodless and for the sinners, for the unholy and profane, for murderers of fathers and murderers of mothers, for manslayers. See, the law was made for the lawless and disobedient. Sinners. A law was made for the sinners. Right there. Same thing. For whoremongers, for them that defile themselves with mankind, for men stealers, for liars, for perjured persons, and if there be any other thing that is contrary to sound doctrine. Sound doctrine. It's still sound doctrine. And after that, in the 3rd week, at its close, a man shall be elected as the plan of righteous judgment, Abraham. So the law was made for sinners before Abraham. And his posterity shall become the plant of righteousness forevermore. And after that, in the 4th week, at its close, visions of the holy and righteous shall be seen, and a law for all generations, and an enclosure shall be made for them. So this is referring to when the law was given to Moses and the tabernacle, the enclosure, the ark. There's a law for all generations. And after that, in the 5th week, at its close, the house of glory and dominion shall be built forever, Solomon's temple. And after that, in the 6th week, all who live in it shall be blinded, and the hearts of all of them shall godlessly forsake wisdom. And in it a man shall ascend, Messiah, the only person that ascended. Oh, hello, Brian. Testament of Judah, as the heaven is higher than earth, so the priesthood is higher than the earth, you know. Yep. Praise Yah, Will. Happy Sabbath. Yep. Yeah, it's been pretty good. Pretty good. It's always good. I love the Sabbath. Best day of the week. John 3:13, and no man hath ascended up to heaven, but he that came down from heaven, even the Son of Man which is in heaven. No man. And a man shall ascend, and at its close the house of dominion shall be burnt with fire, and the whole race of the chosen root shall be dispersed. Right, so the temple was burned, and the whole race was dispersed. And the only thing that confuses me about that is there's 10 tribes and 2 tribes that got sent away. But it just looks like one here after the Messiah ascended. But, yep. Go to James. He, of course, knew that they were dispersed. The Hebrews, the chosen race, chosen root. Father chose them. James, the servant of Elohim and of Yahushua Messiah, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting. Who's he writing to? The 12 tribes scattered abroad. The chosen root, dispersed. The whole race. After that, in the 7th week shall an apostate generation arise, and many shall be its deeds, and all its deeds shall be apostate. This is what we were born into. It lasted from the time the temple was burned, or the house of dominion burned, the Messiah ascended, all of the rest of Israel dispersed, until now. So 2,000 years of apostate. And at its close shall be elected the elect righteous of the eternal plan of righteousness, to receive sevenfold instruction concerning all his creation. To go to, there is, if I can find it in here. Yeah, I would like to get the commentary to be able to look at that. House of Glory and Kingdom. Ethiopic omits a phrase from the Aramaic. Sevenfold wisdom concerning all his creation. Sevenfold wisdom concerning his creation, or instruction. So, yep. And it's very interesting now. A lot of people are waking up and getting a ton of information and knowledge that's been lost for thousands of years. And like I said, I don't consider myself worthy of that title, but at the same time, tons of people are getting knowledge, like Daniel chapter 12 said, at its close. So, at this week's close. For who is there of all the children of men that is able to hear the voice of the Holy One without being troubled? And who can think his thoughts? And who is there that can behold all the works of heaven? It reminds me a lot of Enoch. And how should there be one who could behold the heaven? And who is there that could understand the things of heaven, and see a soul or a spirit, and can tell thereof, or ascend and see all their ends, and think them or do like them? And who is there of all men that could know what is the breadth and length of the earth, and to whom has been shown the measure of all of them? Or is there anyone who could discern the length of the heaven, and how great is its height, and upon what it is founded, and how great is the number of the stars, and where all the luminaries rest? Question. And, all right, so this goes backwards. We go from that chapter backwards again to this again. So we're at this close. The elect righteous receive instruction, and the plan of righteousness is Messiah. Jubilees tells you that. Jubilees 16. Seed of Abraham. Chapter 91. And after that there shall be another, the 8th week, that of righteousness. So this is going to be the 8th week, right after they get wisdom. And a sword will be given to it, that a righteous judgment may be executed on the oppressors, and sinners shall be delivered into the hands of the righteous. So we saw that in the animal dream vision. So sinners are delivered into the hand of the righteous, and at its close they shall acquire houses through their righteousness. Messiah said, in my Father's house are many mansions, and a house shall be built for the great King in glory forevermore, and all mankind shall look to the path of uprightness. You go to Isaiah 2. Isaiah 2, this is what Isaiah the son of Amoz saw concerning Yehudah and Jerusalem. And it shall happen in the latter days that the mountain of Yahuwah's house shall be established on the top of the mountains, and shall be raised above the hills, and all nations shall flow to it. Many people shall go and say, come, let us go up to the house of the Elohim of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion the law shall go out, and Yahuwah's word from Jerusalem. He will judge between the nations, and will decide between many peoples, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares. Hasn't happened yet. And their spears into pruning hooks, and nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. And it goes on, you can continue reading there. And after that, in the 9th week, the righteous judgment shall be revealed to the whole world. So that's a week, right? We know when he comes back, it's the millennial reign, so 1,000 years. Father's timing's not our timing. Then, after that, in the 9th week, the righteous judgment shall be revealed to the whole world, and all the works of the godless shall vanish from all the earth, and the world shall be written down for destruction. Second Peter 3:12, looking for and hastening unto the coming of the day of Elohim, wherein the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. Nevertheless, we, according to his promise, look for the new heavens and a new earth, wherein dwelleth righteousness. So this new heavens, new earth, righteousness, people don't have to learn, right? There's a separation. World written down for destruction. After this, in the 10th week, in the 7th part, there shall be the great eternal judgment. I think it's where people get confused. So you got righteous judgment here. This is a different timing, right? Then you got later on, then we've got great eternal judgment. It's not the same. In which he will execute vengeance among the angels, messengers. And that's interesting. Earlier in Enoch, it said like 10,000 years where they were locked up. Then vengeance. And the first heaven shall depart and pass away, and a new heaven shall appear, and the powers of the heavens shall give sevenfold light. Enoch really helps you understand the timing and the different scriptures where they go together. Revelation 6:14, the heaven departed as a scroll when it was rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. And I encourage everybody to go read the entire section for context. I don't have time to go through and read the entire thing. We read this earlier. So I pick out bits and pieces that I know pretty confident go together. And after that, there will be many weeks without number forever, and all shall be in goodness and righteousness, and sin shall no more be mentioned forever. Praise Yah. Hallelujah. Never sin again. Where's it at? I know you're in there. Maybe it's never again sin. Never again sin through ignorance. Where's it at? Okay. KJV's not working. Let's try DuckDuckGo. Okay, never again. I don't think that's it. Well, I know it's in there somewhere. It's a big book. Maybe it's Sin No More. Sorry. That's not it. Nope. He tells her to sin no more, but that's not what I'm looking for. Revelation 22:3, there shall be no more curse, but the throne of Elohim and the Lamb shall be in it, and his servants shall serve him. His name will be in their foreheads. Yahuwah. That's interesting. I think in the priestly outfit, the name Yahuwah was in the breastplate or the forehead. Where's that at? Yep. Anyways. All right. I can't find it. Sorry about that. So we're going to be on 94 next time. It's wonky the way that is. So 90, 92, 93, 91. I'm just going to have to put that in there. So, all right. Happy Sabbath, Mick. Thanks for stopping by. And priest is higher than king. Yep. All right. Well, hope that was a blessing and helpful. If you have any questions or anything that I can help with, drop a comment. I'll try to help. And for those keeping Sabbath, have a good rest of your Sabbath.